both my healing journey, already having a passion for working with women, and then recognizing radical responsibility for your health is actually where you see changes. That's all what led me to wanting to work with women the way I do now, because when the pain is big enough, they're willing to actually take the steps and take the action they need to actually change their life.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Today on the podcast, I have Dr. Emily Plasker, and she's a chiropractor and integrative health practitioner who specializes in root cause approaches to healing. She helps women regain confidence and control of their bodies by getting to the root issue of their gut, hormone, and energy problems. Dr. Emily, I'm super happy to have you here today on the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy that we get to connect in this way. It's so fun.
I know. Yes. It's nice to meet other people that are in the same realm, and we all have our own twist of how we do it differently too. I would love for you to share your story and how you got into this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it is so cool, like, connecting with people who do what we do in the same realm, right? Because, like, we can't all help everyone, and it's nice to learn from each other, right? My story really began when I was a child. That kind of paved the way for me being where I'm at now, helping women the way I help women. My dad's a chiropractor. I have a whole family of chiropractors, and so I grew up in kind of like a crunchy alternative family. I would go to the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, or like all these more alternative healthcare providers when I was sick. I didn't grow up in a pediatrician's office. And that being said, while I was a lot healthier than the people around me, I was still struggling with things that weren't that big of an issue back then, but became worse and worse throughout my life. And so when I was younger, I was dealing with a lot of food sensitivities. I couldn't eat dairy. I couldn't eat a lot of breads. I would be doubled over in pain after meals for hours. And my first memory I have of that is when I was a camp counselor. I would like eat lunch and then like we would have a rest hour and I would need that rest hour to lay in bed and just hope and pray I didn't throw up. That led me to a string of diets to try and manage my symptoms. So I went vegetarian at first. Of course, as a child, I wasn't a healthy vegetarian. Somebody was like French
Our
fries.
stories are so similar. So I'm like, yes, yes.
My parents told me I was a French frietarian. And it helped me feel better. That kind of took different shapes and forms as I went through high school and college. I was vegetarian and then I went vegan because vegetarian, I started reacting to foods again. And so I went vegan. And at the time, I was really in a negative space with my mental health and my body image. And so I was working out a ton and eating very few calories. And of course, we know what that can do to the body, the stress response that it puts on the body, on the hormones and everything. And so my food sensitivities and stomach pain then grew into that and hormone issues, really painful periods. I was skipping class or skipping work on the first few days of my cycle. I would get night sweats, again, not knowing much about health and what was going on in my body. Kind of thought it was normal because a lot of women around me were dealing with that. I went on
It's
birth
like,
control.
it's either tuberculosis, menopause, or your hormones are all.
Yeah, right. Right. So of course I went on birth control because like, I didn't tell my parents I went on birth control. They probably still don't know because they wouldn't really approve of that. But I like needed to do something to like manage how I was feeling a few days out of the month. That was in college, and then I decided I wanted to go to chiropractic school. In chiropractic school, I was exposed to a new level of health education than even my bachelor's in physiology, and I was surrounded by people who were really trying to be as healthy as I could and heal from the inside out with the inborn healing potential we're all born with. So I cleaned up my diet a lot. I actually got off the birth control, and when I got off birth control, all my hormone symptoms came back. When I was on the birth control, I wasn't having painful periods. I wasn't having clotty, heavy periods. I went off of it. It all came back. My food sensitivities worsened. I ended up doing this 21-day cleanse that consisted of a bunch of different supplements, liver cleansing supplements, and like basically you're only eating fruits and vegetables, which I was at that time I was vegan again. So that wasn't too hard. And I would do this 21-day cleanse about every quarter because on the cleanse, I felt really good. And then the next month or two after, my symptoms would start to come back and they would start to come back worse. I would develop like more food sensitivities to like broccoli and zucchini and all these healthy foods. As a vegan, trying to be a healthy vegan, you only have so many options, right? And so I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse. And I ended up getting out of chiropractic school and opening my own practice. And I was super burnt out at that point. Chiropractic school is a beast, it's so stressful. I was dealing with these health issues. I get out, I'm burnt out. I open up my own chiropractic practice, and then shit hit the fan with my health. In 2019, I started getting debilitating anxiety. I was not an anxious person, but debilitating anxiety. It was when the pandemic was starting and I was a business owner. So I kind of chalked it up to that, right? There's always kind of an excuse of like why you have anxiety. But on top of the anxiety, I was getting really bad brain fog to the point where, like, as a chiropractor, I forgot the word spine one day in the office, the thing I have my doctorate in. Slowly over the course of a few months, I started breaking out in what looked like a few bug bites to a full body rash. That was the itchiest thing I have ever experienced in my life. It was honestly the worst symptom I've ever experienced in my life because I literally couldn't wear clothes without being super itchy and feeling like a crazy person. So that was the day I hit rock bottom and was like, I need help, was a week after doctor offices shut down because of the pandemic. And so thankfully I had a friend in functional medicine who I was like, I need you to get me in. I need to figure this out. And so we ran a bunch of testing and it turns out it came back. I was positive for celiac, so autoimmunity against gluten. And then I also was diagnosed with leaky gut and SIBO. I went through her protocols. I felt quite a bit better, but I knew that I was still a little anxious. I still had the crazy gut issues, the night sweats, the hormone issues. My autoimmune reaction calmed down because I stopped eating gluten. My gut started to feel a little better. I knew how good I could feel, and I wasn't feeling that. And that's what catapulted me into the world where I'm now in. I was like, I know there's a cause deeper than leaky gut. I know there's a cause deeper than SIBO. I know there's a reason why I'm responding to gluten and my body's attacking itself the way it is because I used to eat it fine with no problem. So why all of a sudden is it a problem now? And so I dug into the research. I dug into the link between pesticides and gluten. I dug into parasites. And I realized while I grew up in a country family, we lived in Georgia, you're in the South. They sprayed their yard every year for mosquitoes multiple times a year. So I had this high level of pesticide exposure. I traveled a lot when I was younger to like third world countries. I'm sure I picked up parasites. I always got sick when I traveled. And so I put myself through a detox and my life literally changed. It's never something I thought I would do what I'm doing now, but it happened very organically where my parents saw myself get better. So they were like, "What are you doing?" And my friends were like, "What are you doing?" And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And as I dive more into the different toxins and pathogens and stuff that our body is faced with now in this really sick world we live in, it's something that just really lights me up and sets me on fire of like, this is not right. Of course, we are so unhealthy as a society because we have so many things stacked against us. That was a long story, not very short, but that's my story, how I got to where I am now doing what I do now.
Yeah, I have such a similar story. I can only imagine how many other people are out there listening that have gone through the same thing or part of it. And they're like, oh, wow, I didn't think it could get any better. I think that this is as good as it gets. I know that's how I was. I did not grow up in an environment that was crunchy. I was going to the pediatrician all the time. I didn't know anything about functional medicine until I started looking into it. And I had had issues my entire life, especially the stomach pain after eating. I mean, I very vividly remember being in elementary school and having to lay my head on the table because that fetal position, it's a
Yeah.
comfortable position when you're in stomach pain. And I always had to do that. And I thought that that was completely normal until I became a nurse and realized, this is not how the human body is supposed to work. How exactly did you decide that you wanted to help women in this way? What was it that made you shift from chiropractic care to focusing more on this?
Yeah, totally. I think there are definitely a few things that lined up to make me wanna do it in this way, and one is for sure, like, it was such a big pain for me. It literally destroyed my life being where I was at. So much to the point where I actually empathize with people who would take their own lives because of how bad they were feeling. Being in that much pain and then being so much better through something that didn't involve medication, something that didn't involve surgery, something that I didn't have to manage it for the rest of my life. I actually was able to fix it and heal and be able to enjoy foods again and have painless periods and see glowing health. That's for sure one thing that led to that. The other is being a chiropractor. I love chiropractic. I was adjusted like 30 minutes after I was born, if even that long after. I've always had a passion for working with women, specifically in pregnancy and babies, and that's where my chiropractic was tailored, was in the prenatal pediatric realm. But with chiropractic in this day and age, unless you're really educating from day one so much to the point where you feel like you're beating a dead horse, people use chiropractic as another Band-Aid solution, in my opinion. They come to me, they want me to fix them. They're in my office for 10 to 20 minutes a week, and then they go home and they really aren't implementing the things that they need to do to take responsibility for their health and their healing. And that's where opening a chiropractic practice and seeing a lot of patients and seeing that as a common theme, that's where I realized that I'm really passionate about health, but I'm really passionate more about helping people take radical responsibility for their health. My chiropractic practice, people didn't have enough of a buy-in for them to be able to do that. I would just repeat myself to the same people over and over again about how they had to eat differently and move their bodies and drink water and cut
Yeah.
out the chemicals, and like people just weren't taking the advice. So I think both my healing journey, already having a passion for working with women, and then recognizing radical responsibility for your health is actually where you see changes. That's all what led me to wanting to work with women the way I do now, because when the pain is big enough, they're willing to actually take the steps and take the action they need to actually change their life and their health.
For sure. What does it look like to work with you?
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun doing this work. I work with women one on one, and I'm actually starting a group program as well for the people who want to heal in community. But the steps kind of look the same no matter how we work together. And the first step is always assessing to see what's going on in the body. I like to run a hair analysis test where we can see nutrient levels, antioxidants, amino acids, fatty acids, minerals, vitamins, right? We see all those different nutrient levels. It will show us what organs in the body need support, whether it's your detoxification organs or your sugar metabolism or even your mental emotional stress. It'll show us exactly what organ systems are going awry. And then it will show us what are the living and non-living things in your body that are causing those systems to go awry. So pathogens, it'll show us whether you have virus, mold, fungus, parasites, bacteria, and then it'll show us the non-living toxins. So whether you have heavy metals or chemicals or hydrocarbons or radiation, and it'll also show us the electromagnetic frequencies that your body's reacting to, whether it's like Wi-Fi or 5G, power lines or railway stations. So step one is to assess what's going on like a foundational level. So we're not looking at what hormones are going off, what is going on with your thyroid. We're not looking at all these different lab tests that like different doctors run, because a lot of time those are more downstream symptoms. We're looking at what's going on a foundational level that is causing your body to have the hormone imbalance or your thyroid to attack itself or your body to attack itself instead of gluten, right? We're looking at those foundational elements. And then from there, based on what comes back, we build a protocol that's individualized to that person, whether it's in group or one on one, to start to get the organs moving and functioning, get the liver online, the gallbladder online, the colon online, get the cells, the mitochondria, right? The powerhouse of the cell, get all of those working like they're supposed to, because those are the organs that naturally do what they need to do to keep us healthy, right? Those are all our detox organs and the organs that create our energy and like are responsible for our immune system. We get those online. And then once those come online, then we go after the different toxins and pathogens in the system that are creating a stress response, causing your body to react to the foods, causing the leaky gut, causing the bacterial overgrowth of SIBO, causing the autoimmunity. We detox those things, the living and the non living, all the while We're working on the nutrition, we're working on the movement, we're working on the stress management, nervous system regulation, while also implementing tools to help support those organs. So whether it's coffee enemas or castor oil packs or dry brushing or sauna, right? There's all these really cool tools that we can implement in a way that fits into the person's lifestyle, whether they're a busy mom or someone who has all the time in the world, to make sure that their body can heal and really meet their body where it's at, meet their schedule where it's at, meet their finances where it's at, meet them as a whole human where they're at and bring them along the healing journey.
That's an awesome approach.
Yeah.
What do you think is keeping women stuck at feeling at war with their bodies?
It's such a loaded question because so many things are keeping us stuck. I mean, talking about our very parallel stories of cutting out food, like blaming foods is such a big thing that's keeping us stuck. I see so many women go on elimination diets, whether them put themselves on the elimination diets or being told by someone to go on an elimination diet, like food is a problem. We're actually meant to eat food. We actually need food to live. Food is usually never the issue. Even if you have an anaphylactic allergic reaction to food, it's not the food, it's something going on in the body. I think that's like a message that we really have wrong. You pair the blaming of food with the society expectations to be a thin person, and the value that we put into being a thin person really causes women to go on these extreme diets while also overworking out and just stressing their body to all get out. And that usually begins when we're teenagers, when we should be robust and healthy. And when we get into adulthood and our body goes from more of the growing stage to more of the breakdown, right? We all know we lose bone density and stuff as we get older. Our body can begin to break down more as we get older. When you don't have a good foundation set in your younger years, well, then you break down in your older years and you might not feel it to your older years. You might feel like, hey, everything was good, right? I'm sure you hear that all the time. I turned 40 and my body just like all of a sudden started to
Yeah.
break out. Like, well, it's not really all of a sudden, right? So I think those are the two biggest things that keep women stuck or like get women to where they're at, where they're just in this hole and they don't feel like themselves. They don't feel like a normal person. They don't feel comfortable in their body, both in the way they look, but also just how their body works. And then you pair that with the pesticides on everything, all the chemicals in our makeup, our hair products, our women more than men. We use so many more products than men, and they're filled with things that harm our body, harm our
Yeah.
hormones. Luckily, I think those are the two or three biggest things that like really keep us stuck.
Yeah, I definitely agree. For me too, not growing up in a crunchy environment and looking back, it's not society's fault. I don't
Yeah.
know who decided these things, but even what they teach in school, it's not that it's inaccurate, but it's like they're not telling the whole story. And that is something that I have just noticed a huge, huge issue with because it's almost like they're putting us against ourselves.
Yeah.
That could be a whole other conversation. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even in chiropractic school, I know chiropractors still get the rap of like work wax. We can leave that aside. We don't have to worry about that storyline. But my experience of chiropractic school was we really did learn a lot about root cause healing and about tapping into the body's own inborn healing potential and how to spark healing from the inside out. And that being said, I didn't learn any of this in chiropractic school. This all came from me having my own health crisis and then digging through rabbit holes to eventually find the right rabbit hole that led me down the path of healing and then opened up a world of research and great
yeah,
companies and stuff that are doing the research and paving the way. So, yeah, I mean, what's the answer, right? We need emergency medicine. We need chiropractors. We need acupuncturists. We can't all know it all. But like,
right.
at the end of the day, like, what's the answer?
Exactly. I'm curious, whenever you did go through a detox that ultimately got you on a better path, what was that detox like the first time that you ever did one?
Yeah.
How long was it? What kind of detox was it? A lot of people hear detox and I'm sure we all think different things. So I'm just curious what that looked like.
Totally. And yeah, I will say how I did my first detox to how I do them now and how I lead my clients through them looks pretty different because I have a lot more information. At the time, I didn't know anyone who could guide me through one. I did it myself. And even before that, when I was doing in chiropractic school, when I was doing those cleanses, I now call it a cleanse versus a detox because it was 21 days and it wasn't actually detoxing anything. It was more cleansing my organs, working on my drainage system, my liver and stuff. The first actual detox I put myself through, I spent a month working on my organ function, working on my liver, working on my kidneys, working on my colon, working on my mitochondria. And then after that, I moved into detoxing parasites. Parasites are usually what you want to go after first after you get your organs moving because parasites sponges for all other toxins in the body. And believe it or not, if you are a living, breathing human on this earth, you have parasites.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people it's such a misconception that you don't have to go to a third world country to get them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we all probably have them.
Yeah, which is not something I realized at the time. At the time when I started, I was like, "Oh, I've been to Africa, I've been to Haiti, I've been to Mexico, I've gotten sick everywhere." I probably picked it up there. Actually, realistically, I just put the pieces together a few weeks ago. When I was 4 years old, I had a developmental regression and I started wiping my poop on the walls. It was after the traumatic event don't have to go into, but I started wiping my poop on the walls and I don't remember much from the time, but I do remember that there were little tiny worms in my poop. And I think that's why I was actually like, I was scratching myself and didn't know what to do with it, like
Yeah.
walls. And so, really thinking back to it, when I was 4 years old, I had what I now know are pinworms, right? And
Yeah.
never told my parents. I literally never told my parents. I was embarrassed. And so, I never did anything to address them. So, I addressed parasites. I did it at the time for a month. Now, I actually do it longer with clients because we need to make sure we hit them in all their life cycles. Let's see, what did I do? I did parasites for a month and then I moved into synthetic chemicals and viruses and radiation. I did a month of that. And then after that, I moved into heavy metals and pesticides. Really, the whole reason why I wanted to do a detox was to clear the pesticides from my system, to clear this autoimmune reaction I was having. So, total, that first time, I did 4 months of detox, and it was shocking. There were so many emotions involved. My second day on the parasite supplements, I passed a 3-foot worm. Yep. And
What?
yeah, to the point where I was like, "What is that?" I went and got a plastic fork, I drug it out of the toilet, I measured it, I took pictures, I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that thing just like, how long has" we don't swallow 3-foot long worms, right? Like, how
Right.
long has that thing been growing in my body to get to be that long?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Wild. But, I mean, I was at a point where I was feeling so bad when I started it, and I definitely had bad days going through it, but I watched incrementally as my health just improved over and over and over again, and to the point now where I actually can eat gluten. I don't have any reaction to gluten. I don't eat it all the time because it's coated in pesticides and can
Right.
create damage at the gut, but I don't consider myself to have an autoimmunity disease.
Even though you have the marker for celiac. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't know anybody else that could say that.
You know, it's wild because at the time when I was going through the detox, I had joined a CrossFit gym and I was talking to this woman and I was having a really bad workout day and we were working out as partners. And I was like, I just cannot push through this workout. I'm doing a detox. And she was like, Oh, what detox are you doing? So I told her and she was like, Oh my gosh, I did that. And the wildest thing happened. I used to have celiac to the point where I couldn't even buy lotion with gluten in it. And now I can do gluten just fine. And I actually never expected that to come out of the detox. And that's not something I tell people to expect. But I was like, oh, wow, like you actually healed your celiac through detoxing pesticides, which is what I'm doing. It was like, whoa,
Yeah, that's
wild.
interesting. So I'm not celiac, but according to the tests, I have a true wheat allergy and I have been gluten free for years. But I don't know if I'd ever want to reintroduce it because I'm traumatized by how terrible I felt. If that day ever comes, I will
Yeah.
let you know. But
I
mm,
totally yeah, and I actually I was traumatized too, and I did not introduce it on purpose. I actually introduced it accidentally. I was on a camping trip and I don't drink, but we had these non-alcoholic beers and they used to be gluten-free. I drank 2 of them. After I finished the second, for some reason looked at the ingredients and wheat was on there. And I was like, "Wait, these used to be gluten-free. They're not gluten-free anymore." I drank 2 of them, nothing.
that's awesome. I would
And
have died.
since I've introduced it a few times here and there to be like, "Hey, what's the status? What's the status?" And I haven't reacted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you what was the biggest surprise that you got out of the detox, but you kinda told me that it may have been this, the whole gluten thing. Were there any other big surprises that came from it that you never even expected?
Yeah, I think going into it, I was hopeful. but I didn't have any true expectations because I mean, at that point, how old was I? I was 27 or 28, and I had lived most of my life feeling horrible. And I never truly expected to feel 100. I've never been one to really believe in diagnoses. To me, diagnoses are just a way to get insurance coverage. It's like what
Yeah.
box fit in to fit what medication that's covered by insurance or what surgery covered by insurance. Like leaky gut. Leaky gut tells me a symptom that's happening in my body, but it doesn't tell me why. Like SIBO tells me like a symptom happening in the body, but why is bacterial overgrowth? Celiac tells me again a symptom. Your body's attacking itself because of gluten, but it doesn't tell me why. Why is my body doing all these things? So I think going through the detox and watching my body heal again on a foundational level really solidified my belief that diagnoses are labels that we honestly shouldn't pay attention to. I've always said to my parents or whoever, don't put me in a box. And that's not necessarily referring to diagnoses, but now I'm like, you are a living, breathing, intelligent human who's capable of self healing and self maintaining. Why would you reduce that to this box of leaky gut or this box of ADHD or this box of hypothyroidism, right? You're
Yeah.
capable of much more. That's the biggest thing and most unexpected thing I got out of the detox was experiencing for myself that I could heal past these diagnoses that
Yeah.
are healable from.
Right. I think that's awesome. And from having a background in Western medicine, I completely agree with the diagnoses. Where does the patient come in here? Where does the true healing come from? Yeah, I completely agree.
That's one thing I think people would think differently about this, but that's one thing I love about being a chiropractor and being an IHP. I'm not allowed to diagnose. It is not in my scope of practice. And I freaking love that for myself. Because I don't
Yeah.
want to have to diagnose people because I don't believe you're a diagnosis. And just like you said, the words I am are super powerful and whatever follows them, literally, the more you repeat it, the more it gets wired into your neurology, right? You have neural connections that form every time you repeat, I am sick, I am healthy, right? Whatever it is, the stronger those beliefs get. And so when we are given something that we're told we can't heal from, I am ADHD, I have ADHD versus like, I'm experiencing symptoms of this, right? It's so different. I am versus I'm experiencing actually creates space to like, okay, well, in this space of I'm experiencing versus I am, I can actually do something about it.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Emily, this has been an awesome episode. I do feel like we could continue and talk forever on this. Is there anything else that you want to leave with our listeners today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I've been very preachy, but really it's because I believe no matter where you are and who you are and what you're dealing with, like there is a way to heal. Your body is so freaking capable of healing and it's so intelligent and so wise. And the path to healing looks like nurturing that, nurturing your body's own capabilities. And I would just want to leave people with wherever you are, you don't have to be stuck there. There's always something you can do. There are always more answers. And so, really, don't give up on yourself. Don't lose hope. Even if, like, your doctor says there's nothing you can do about it, you
Find
just
somebody else. Yeah.
someone go find someone who believes in you. There's Allison, there's me. We know so many people, like, we can connect you to the exact right person for you, right? Because again, we all have different expertise. We all help people in a different ways. We all have different personalities and resonate with people differently. There's multiple people out there who can help you. You just got to go find them. And so just encouragement to not give up on yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Emily. This has been really cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Allison. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.